Welcome back to the Within podcast. This is your host, Nikki Wallace, with special guest today, Allie Sartain. Excited to talk about Allie's journey and kind of all the things that she sees going on in her world as a trichologist, which I know you have no idea what that is, but we'll get into. So welcome, Allie. Thank you for agreeing to come on. And I know you've kind of started to be a part of behind the scenes, a lot of what we have going on at the People Co here. But do you just want to introduce yourself and we can kind of go from there?
So thank you for having me. I love the mission and love what you guys are doing. And it's something I needed years ago. So I'm very grateful to be able to share my lived experience, that I can be a part of it and be a part of the bigger message here. So to let you guys know what I do and kind of how I fell into this. I was a hairstylist for nearly 20 years that turned into an integrative trichologist. So I spent my time, behind the chair and helping women feel beautiful with hair color and extensions, and I absolutely loved it. But I started to notice a shift and kind of a pattern. Women were coming in and having unexplained hair loss, or their hair couldn't grow anymore, or it was just breaking off, or maybe they had scalp conditions that were, painful or embarrassing. And it really piqued my interest. And I was so curious, like, what is going on and why do I not have the answers? So it wasn't until I had my own experience with hair loss. Nothing will wake you up quicker than going through your own stuff. So I, was in a really crazy season of life. I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs or women in general can resonate with my story. I was buying a building for my salon to expand. I found out I was pregnant. So I spent my pregnancy hustling hard, right? Because that's what we do. We get it all in before we have the baby, so then we can chill, right? So I worked my hiney off, worked full time, renovated, had him, lost knowing what sleep was like. I wasn't eating.
I still can't believe that you didn't.
My son had night terrors, and nobody believed me until they offered to help come spend the night. And him getting up like 15 times a night, I tell you, it was the craziest 7 months of my life. So it was pretty terrible. And now looking back, I'm grateful for all of it because it opened me up to so much. But in the midst of it, I was so busy taking care of literally everybody else, the salon, my guests, my kids, my husband, that I forgot to take care of myself. And so I'll never forget the day I got out of the shower and I was brushing my hair, and my hairbrush was literally full of my hair. And I just felt my heart sink. And even now I get emotional thinking about it because it was such a pivotal time for me. I looked at myself in the mirror and I didn't even recognize myself anymore. I was, I gained weight. My face was so inflamed and I was losing my hair hand over fist. And I just remember how heartbroken I felt and how I had completely lost myself. And I, in that moment, realized no one was coming to save me and I needed to help myself. And I declared in that moment that I was going to dig deeper to not only get answers for myself, but to help all the women in my chair who have sat there and they've struggled with it. Because hair in some cultures even is celebrated. There's rituals around it. And it's the first thing we see, when we are out in public, and it says a lot about us. And I realized I helped people for years kind of mask these things that were happening and not having real answers. So that's the long story of how I got into trichology. And trichology, it bridges the gap between being a cosmetologist and dermatologist. So we specifically study the scalp functions, scalp conditions, hair loss, all of that. It's really incredible. I wanted to take a more integrative approach because of my experience and understanding that the biggest thing I think that I've learned is that our body is one. It is all connected. All of our systems, the thoughts that we have, the things we consume, whether that be food or the music we listen to, the podcasts we listen to, the shows we watch. And so I like to take an integrative approach to trichology. And so, I'm just on a mission to bring awareness and help women see their beauty and define beauty in a different way.
Yeah, no, I love all of that. And I wrote something down while you were talking because I think one thing that I've noticed in my journey and kind of how even like the potential within came about and some of the work we're doing at the People Co is we don't share, right? For whatever reason, I didn't mention this at the beginning of the podcast, but Allie is my sister. We're 13 months apart. And she's one of my best friends. And we had no idea that she was going through mentally, like all of these things, on the outside, you had the beautiful salon that was taking off and you were winning all these awards and doing all the things. And we just didn't know that, this stuff was going on. And I think same with me, right? Like I had this whole journey and I didn't tell anybody for years that I was having the experience behind the scenes that I did. And like that right there is like, you said that and I'm just like, my heart just like clenched a little, cause it's like that's why we're building what we're building. You're building what you're building. You're coming alongside us to help us. It's how do we create safe spaces for people to talk about some of these things? How do we create a space that the woman that is losing their hair and covering it up with barrettes and not a word anymore. Do we do barrettes?
Coming back the 90s, baby.
And it is a confidence thing. And we all, when Allie started doing the trichologist stuff, we were all like, what's she doing now? But I think it's the more that I've watched you kind of grow and evolve, it's been, especially living my own journey kind of alongside all of that. It's crazy to me, just like how many women are carrying and people. I don't think it's probably just women, but we're walking along these journeys, carrying so much that's going and holding so much going on behind the scenes. And we just don't have that support.
Well,
so anyway, tangent, but I just think it's such a
to your point, I have done hair for, 2 decades. Like I've helped thousands of women. I have seen some stuff. And I think that what I realized, especially, with my own, stuff, I never wanted to ask for help because I saw these moms who our mom, like did it all. She did it all with 4 kids and she did it beautifully. And it set a standard, but I also felt like I couldn't be weak, that I couldn't ask for help, that if I did struggle, like, I felt like I needed to deal with it in silence. And I think that there's, this shame that people feel. And I think that when we drop that little bit of ego that we have and we just open up to people, I have had some of the most like beautiful conversations and relationships because I dropped my armor and I was authentic and I did share what I was going through. And it was crazy the response that I would get of, women, we go through it. Life is crazy and it's constantly evolving and it's so fast paced and things are always changing and it's a lot. And I think it's okay to say you're not okay or say that you need help and to recognize when that's going on, because it's when you ignore all this that everything goes crazy. And nothing really opened that world up to me more than sitting with a woman who literally has just a few strands of hair left on her head. That is a pivotal moment that will change you and change the way you look at beauty and how you care for yourself and all of it.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. It's just been, both of our lives have kind of changed as soon as we started opening up, I think, about where we're going. And I think we've both made it our mission to create that space or be able to create a safe space for people. So anyway, I hadn't even thought about that piece of your journey until you said that. And I was like, wow, that really is a thing that people are scared to let that down. Or be seen as not enough or be seen as, and I just think naturally Allie Payne and I have brought this conversation up, but we had somebody that, gave us feedback at one point that, you just need to focus on one thing. And I took that away from the meeting that we were in. And it was a man who had said that to us. And I was like, man, he is right. Like, how do we just focus on, but I'm like, I've cut off a lot of meetings. I've done all of this. Like, how can I cut anything else? And it's like, then I put it together. Like, that man runs an organization, has an admin, his wife stays home and takes care of all the kids. And, we just naturally take on all of those roles. And so for us to be able to like really focus on one thing, is not it's not most women's
Yeah.
norm that they only focus on their career or only focus on,
I
whatever.
saw a
So anyway,
funny quote, and it was, "Imagine how much a woman could get done if she had a wife at home." And it kind of made me
oh yeah,
chuckle because I don't know. I just agree with you, and I think it's so true. Like, I just think that
yeah,
there's like these society norms, and I'm not bashing that. I agree with it actually to an
no,
extent, and I love the role of a female in a home and a man and like what that looks like. And we all have our feminine and our masculine, and I don't care what anyone
hmm
says. Women are wired differently, and we need to operate our
yeah,
businesses different. We need to show up for ourselves different, just all of it. I've seen it, I've witnessed it behind
yeah,
the chair, time and time
yeah,
again. So I totally agree with that.
yeah. So the other thought that I want to take this because you've owned businesses, you've had an amazing salon down in the Ozarks, won awards year over year on kind of what you were building there. Went to Arizona, built another salon. It's just everywhere you've gone. You've also done it all from a professional side, and I think you and I both had strong careers in different lanes. But I also do believe that if you have the right communication system, you have the right you kind of let that armor down is in the words. I love that saying, but I do think women can still do it all, but they don't have to do everything. And I think you and I talk about this sometime, but I would love to know kind of your thoughts on like how do you juggle this with like being a mom, being an entrepreneur, so you're not just building something, you're building something with a team and kind of all the things. Like how do you think women are able to do it all and still maintain their health?
I mean, I'm very new to that because I didn't do a good job of that for years. So I'm kind of coming out on the other side. But I think the biggest thing is just knowing you're not going to have it all together all the
Yeah.
time, and that there's seasons of life where
Yep.
you might be a really kick-ass mom and you might be able to really show up for your
Mhm.
kids, and there's seasons where you might just be killing it at business and it's hard to find time for your kids. And I think balance is bullshit, and I think that there is seasons where it's just going to shift all the time. But I think that that's
Mhm.
where it comes in, that really listening to yourself. And I have little check-ins that
Yep.
I do all the time of like, our world, we're always having, TVs on or podcasts on or,
Mhm.
scrolling. There's so many distractions.
Consuming.
Yeah, we
Mhm.
overconsume. And I could get into a whole thing about how that impacts us, but it it distracts us from even what our own thoughts are, and what it can kill our
Yep.
creativity. It can do so much negativity to us. So I always think
Yep.
trying to find moments of just being grounded and literally removing yourself from the noise and being in silence and sitting with yourself. There's practices they
Mhm.
talk about where you, before you get out of bed, just show gratitude for being alive, but kind of scan your body, like, is there anything that feels off, and just listening to that. And I think it's just really important to always kind of check back in. And I think that
Mhm.
something that's also really important is finding women, or I always say women, it's just what I'm used to working with, being behind the chair and stuff, but finding people in general that you can build a community with and that you can have a network
Mhm.
system with. Because even when I moved to Arizona, it was terrifying. Like, I didn't know a single soul. I didn't have a single client. Like, it was starting from ground zero. And the best thing I ever did
Yep.
for myself was to find these groups of women and just show up. And it was terrifying at first. But
Mhm.
because we are all going through similar things, they help us, they encourage us, they maybe can help us with business stuff, or maybe they can go help pick up our kids or do different stuff like that. And
Yep.
that's why being a part of this, even to go back to that, is so huge to me because the last 8 months I haven't done anything work wise, and being on a call with you guys and the thought of being a part of this community, I was like, oh, like I just like felt alive again. And I think
Yep.
that when
Yep.
we think about wellness, that we automatically think about supplements or working out or food, but we miss the community piece, and we miss the
Mhm.
connection piece. And I think as human beings, that's what we're here to do. And so I think
Yep.
back to your question, it's just always checking in with yourself, making that sure that you are seen and heard and cared for first, because there's no reward at the end of your life for how many times you sacrificed like your wants and your
Yeah.
needs.
So
Yeah,
true.
and I am a recovering people pleaser, and so I I have learned the hard way. And yeah, and just finding your people, because no matter what you're going
Mhm.
through, I can guarantee you that you're not alone, you know, when it comes to business or building a
100%.
team
Yeah.
or finding your niche or anything like that. But that's what I think has helped me, you know, moving around and being successful.
Yeah. And I think, one thing, I think to sum some of that up is just self-awareness. Because we're like living in such a fast-paced world, we're consuming, we're doing all of the things. Like I do think a lot of people lose that alone
Mhm.
time with themselves. And I've talked about a lot about my journey. I don't know how in depth I've talked about some of it, but I actually took I don't know if you even remember this, but when my husband and I were my now husband, so we talked about that on another podcast. We're going through a divorce. I mean, my whole from the outside, we looked, we had it all. We had the large house, I had the beautiful ring, I had the car, I had the trips, I had everything, and my world was just internally crumbling. But I was sitting on my condo couch one night, and I remember saying to myself, like, you are the common denominator, right? Like all these things that are chaos in your life. And that was hard. That was hard for me to, as a successful businesswoman, and I'm doing all the things, and but to admit to myself, like, you are the one that is at the core of all of the things, right? Like, if you look at everything going on in your life. And so I actually did a self-assessment, and like I went and got feedback from people in my world of like, how am I showing up? What does that look like? And kind of started to begin the journey of like finding myself in a way. And I think a lot of people don't take time, and you don't need to go to that extent, right? Like you don't need to go and interview your closest friends and family for feedback. But that was probably 6, 7 years ago that I did that. But I think a lot of what you're talking about too is just like that self-awareness and being okay with like being in your own head, and like, what does that look like? What does that feel like? What is your body telling you? Like, I just don't think enough people take time for that, whether it's a place that scares them and they don't want to be there. They don't want to be by
Right.
themselves. They just don't give themselves that time and energy. And it doesn't have to be a lot during the day. It's maybe even 5 minutes that you're letting yourself sit there and, meditate or just think about whatever. I know you're very intentional about that, but my wish for kind of women or people kind of everywhere with such a fast moving world that we have is that they could take that time to be with themselves and know who they are and be okay with that. And if they're not, they can then make the changes they want to be the person that they want to be.
Well,
So,
I think too, you know, we get out of college and we get into adult life and we start getting all these titles. You know, we become
uh-huh.
a CEO or a manager, or we become a mom or a wife. And I think in the midst of that, at least for myself, like I lost who I was because I felt like I needed to show
Yes.
up as all of these things to all of these people. And I think losing
Right.
your own identity and not understanding yourself and that self-awareness is detrimental,
Yes.
because having a
Yeah.
salons and working with people, I directly work with people every single day for years.
Every
Yeah,
day.
and it's like you being self-aware doesn't just benefit you, it benefits your employees and how you treat them and how you
Yep.
speak to them. My guests that would come in, do you know how many times I heard people come in and they're like, they left a hairstylist of 20 years because they just quit listening to them, when that lady was probably going through it and couldn't even connect to her guests. But to not have
Right.
that self-awareness and to not just be fully present and to see how you're showing up in the world, I think it's really important that we just stay connected and that we are aware. I
Hmm.
feel like we live life so unconsciously, and I think I've really
Yes.
assessed like what I've been through the last 5 years, and that's what I think it was. I let all these other titles dictate who I was and how I was showing up. I lost
Hmm.
myself, and then I just went through the motions. But our
Right.
body can only stuff what's not serving us and what's not for us for so long before
A
all of this
thousand
shows
percent.
up. And I
Yeah.
think about you with where, I don't know if we should speak on this, but wwhere you were at in your career, I
Take away.
literally told you for years, this is killing you.
I
Like
know.
this is sucking like your
Mhm.
soul out
The
of. We
stress.
watched it. And, but
Yeah.
you loved the success. You're human and you worked your ass off for it. So you love the success and you love the money and and that should, none of that should be shameful whatsoever. Like we
Yeah.
should celebrate all
Yeah.
of that, but like it showed up, later in life. And
Yeah. I'm
you
paying for it
are.
now.
And that's,
Yeah.
just the bigger picture. And I think where this awareness needs to really, happen, and it's important.
And that's like kind of, you just said that so eloquently. Like, that's exactly why Let People Go in general, like, I was so passionate about. I didn't know how we were going to do it, but I knew that I needed to use my platform differently because, the work that we do, and I know you don't get into this side of the business with us as much, but the work that we do is going in and we work with these executives or these business owners or the operators that are running these really cool organizations, and they're losing themselves. And, I had a leader that I was working with that she was, pounding her chest one day when I walked in her office, and I'm like, what is happening? And she's like, oh, it's just, I'm working 17-hour days, but I know I'll be
It's a
fine.
release
Yeah, no,
method.
oh no. Well, she was
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
release that heart palpitation. But it's like, I was going, again, that was a time in my life that I wasn't sharing what I was personally going through. And it's like, I was just seeing this organization after organization that I would work with. I've worked with hundreds of organizations over my career. And I'm like, this is just a common theme. And how do we start talking about this differently? Because if it's not showing up now, or you're able to release that now, like, that doesn't mean that in, 5, 10, 15 years, like, Alzheimer's and dementia, some of these things are getting, as we get more research and information, they're getting tied back to, different stressors or different things and responses that your body are going through. And I know this is like going real technical and scientific. This is the side of this that I love. But there's a lot of studies coming out that some of these real, sad diseases that people, end up having are linked to, some of the stress and the things that your body go through kind of throughout the life. So,
Well,
anyway.
I will share, this story because you were with me on this trip, but I will share kind of one of my, like, again, like aha moments and realization of just how crazy, stress can be and what it can do to our body. You and I had actually just left Nashville, and we were supposed to be at this
Oh, yeah.
amazing, business. It was empowering. I was looked forward to it for months, and I was sitting on the airplane and never having.
Again, I didn't know she was going through this, so she's a good one at we're changing her
We're
ways,
working
but
on it.
anyway.
And I was sitting in between like the cutest old couple, and they were like cutely like bickering, and everything was fine and perfect. And then all of a sudden we were in the air, and I was like, oh my God, like my chest was tight, and I know what anxiety feels like, but this felt like a heart attack. Like I was to the point, you guys, where I was ready to tell the stewardess, like, you better land this because I am having issues. Yeah, I'm going down. Like I'm having a heart attack. And I was 2 seconds away from getting up. And I literally, this sounds crazy, but I said to myself, I would rather like just die right here than like face that kind of embarrassment. Cause I think I obviously knew that it was stress, but it was not like any stress I'd ever felt before. And it was so hard, and it restricted me from getting on a plane again for a long time and just doing all this stuff. But when I dove deep and really understood, I had an amazing chiropractor who helped me. I had labs done. I did all this stuff, and I discovered that my, this dysfunction was happening in my body. And when you're deficient in certain things, it can cause your chest to be tight. It can cause all of these things. And for me, I was like, holy crap. Like I never knew that. Like stress can restrict your blood flow and stop that. Like, I mean, it's when you understand, and you said it's the sciencey stuff, and it's like a geek out moment, which I could nerd out on all day, because when you realize how cool and powerful the body is, like you can't unsee that. And then you just want to learn more. And I learned how our fascia and our nervous system and our body remembers things. So you might have forgot about the crappy job you had years ago that took you out, but like your body still holds on to that. So unless you move through that, then you're not ever going to get past it. And anyway, it's amazing and fascinating, and our bodies are amazing and powerful. So
Yeah, we are always sharing. If you saw our text thread, you'd probably be like, "Who are these women?" But Gary Brecka is somebody that we both listen to, and if you don't listen to him and you love the science side of anything, like I would totally listen to him. But one thing that he says on his podcast and talks about is, does your body have the raw materials it needs to survive? And when he said that, I was like, holy gosh, like that is, but you think about it. And again, like we're consuming so much, like what are you doing to bring your body down? If you're sitting there scrolling on your phone before you're going to bed, like, and then you don't get a good night of sleep, like, whoa, why? Like your body just consumed 5,000 things in the last 2 minutes that you were awake. And now your brain can't shut down to get the rest that it needs. Supplements is a big thing that we talk about. Like, do we need to take every supplement under the sun? No, like get your blood work done, figure out where you're deficient. But then there's like, you probably do need a supplement of some sort because of the materials that go into our food today, or we don't have the same minerals in our soil that we had 50 years ago, 25 years ago, even. So anyway, it just, when he said that, I like called Allie, I think right away. And I was like, oh my God, I was just listening to this podcast and he said this. And it's just like to your point, Allie, the body is a fascinating thing, but if you're not giving it the nutrients that it needs, whether that's, food, water, energy, time, I think we forget about all those elements as Allie stated earlier. So, I don't know.
And even like play, like I think that as adults, this might just sound woo woo and strange, but I'm like, one thing that I've learned that's so important is, especially when we get in this like business mindset, right? We have to act a certain way. We have to dress a certain way. We have to be professional. And I am for that 100%. But I think somewhere in the midst of doing and being all of these things, I forgot to have fun and to do things that make me feel more connected to myself. And to, I try now, I put my phone away, and I luckily I have kids and a son that keeps me super active and constantly outside.
You always take your phone.
But I love it because we get to go outside and do sidewalk chalk. And I think the key to it is not doing it, by just sitting there and like scrolling on your phone or doing whatever, but being intentional in these moments of play, or being grounded and being outside. And I just think we get so lost in like hustle harder, show up harder, do this, more that, like, and it just takes away from everything. So just living more intentionally, I think is just the key to everything. I think it improves you as a business owner, as, like I said earlier, like showing up for your employees, just all of it.
Yeah. So talk about some of the things, actually, before we go there, what are probably 2 or 3 things that you do on a daily, weekly basis? I don't care which one. We've talked about a lot of things, but like, what are some things that you have intentionally woven into your day or week to take time? Because a lot, I can tell a lot of women or people are going to listen to this and they're going to say, I don't have time for that, or like, who has time for that? Or, I'm running this organization, or I'm, I have 5 kids and all the activities. Like, so how have you personally integrated all of that into your day?
To start off with this is triggering, so prepare yourself. But someone told me once, they said, instead of saying you don't have time for something, say it's not a priority. And I was like, whew, like that is a big one, So and it's like, I would sit and have these conversations because Trichology, I have a 360 approach. I would address, stress, nourishment, lifestyle factors, all of it. And, literally every time I brought up stress, women would kind of like chuckle and like it was just like a given, like badge of honor, like we're stressed out, like it's just I'm a mom, like it comes with the territory. And it's like it doesn't have to be like that. And what your cost is so much greater, and it's your health. And so I always say that we look at, all these things people are doing, and I'm guilty of this. I have the red light mask on the vibration plate, and I'm like doing breath work and like listening to Hertz frequency. I'm like a maniac. Okay. Like I do love all of the things. However, I'm like, and I will have it stack all day long. I love it. I will make the most out of the little time that I have. But I think we look for external things to make us feel whole or healthy again. And I think that there's little things. And again, our body is its own tool and is so powerful. So a big thing that I've done, my chiropractor friend that I talk about, she actually was huge for me with this. And it's, you know, I was inside my suite all the time and not eating and not taking breaks. In the hairstylist world, we used to pride ourselves on this, you know, but go outside. Like, I go out in the morning and I spend 5 minutes and I multitask. I'm letting my dogs out. So there we go. There's a win for moms out there. But I just stand there and I get sunlight on my face and I just take some deep breaths. But how small of an action that is, 5 minutes of being outside can change your cortisol. It can change your hormones. It can do so many things. And that's 5 minutes and it's free. You know, again, like it's just so simple. And because of marketing and the way our world is we've been kind of like trained to like, oh, you have to invest in all these supplements or do all these things. And
Right.
you don't
Do all those
have to.
things,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, that helped. And I do all that too. I have a cabinet to prove it. But I am looking for these things. So I go outside and I get sunlight. I touch grass. We always say that in this house if my daughter is being needs a break, I tell her to get outside. But just go outside, be in nature, you know, that's super important to me. I really love breath work. I have, you know, people in my life who view it in different ways, but to me, I learned that we don't breathe properly as humans in general. We don't breathe with our whole diaphragm. When I was in a really stressed state, I found myself like having my shoulders up to my ears and like a scrunch face and literally holding my breath. Like I would catch myself like this. And so I, again, like 3 minutes breath work, do something like that. There's different apps, there's different things. But again, you can do this all for free by yourself. So I do that.
Right.
And then the third thing,
You can even YouTube the breathwork stuff, and there's so much like 2 minutes of breath work, 5 minutes of breath work.
when I got introduced to breath work, I was at a retreat and, you know, it was magical. We were on this rooftop and like, but this lady was describing it to me and I was like, what wackadoodle shit is she trying to get me to do right now? And I was like, I also used to be the person that thought this was some woo woo bullshit. But it's like, it's neuroscience.
Who is that
it's
person
biology.
in our family? We all thought she was
I
crazy.
still in the family hippie, I get told all the time, but it's study. If you don't want to look at the woo woo side of it, go look at the neuroscience, go look at the science and the biology behind it, because people see it in different ways, but it all comes back to the same thing. Our body is an energetic field that you can literally measure the energy. Like it's a real thing. And so I encourage you, if you think that's woo woo and crazy, dive into it in a different way and change your perspective. You know, the third thing I like to do is just journal or write. And again, that can get like an eye roll or like something like that, but just do it. Just write. Just set a timer for 5 minutes. I always tell you this when you're going through something. I'm like, set a timer for 10 minutes and just write, Nikki, don't stop. Like, but it's that point of connection. It makes you self-aware. It like lets your body, you guys, if you get that in tune to yourself, it tells you what it needs. It tells you the answers, you know? So that's what I do.
That was a crazy thing when I was working. I had that energy coach last year, Jacqueline, that I'm love, and I can't wait to work with her again. But she would like give me a journal, and because I love to write, a journal entry that I had to do, and I was like, I'm not doing this shit. Like I don't have time, and I did it. And it was actually like, and she even said like, you need to do it for a minimum of like 15 minutes because that's when your body like unconsciously can kind of start to, and I think I called Allie after one of them and I was like, oh my gosh, like, did you remember this from our childhood? We had an awesome childhood, but you still always have something, right? Like you always have stuff that your body hangs on to. And, you know, we ended up having this conversation around, you know, how we see money, and, you know, our dad was an entrepreneur, our grandpa was an entrepreneur, you know, our mom was a teacher, and all these dynamics and how that all showed up in our life, and how, you know, that makes us do the things and have the decisions and the mindset around a lot of it now. So that's ever since that, like one time when I really had that, like, oh my God, like I can actually go back and read what I wrote unconsciously because you just let yourself go. And she's really big on like even having just like one or two thoughts that you're writing about. So it's like, I think for that one in particular, it was like, money is, and that was it. Like that was a prompt, and money is, and for 15 minutes I wrote like money is, and then you can go back and kind of see like, how it's showing up in your world or your life. So, anyway, journaling is crazy to me.
But it sounds crazy, and then you try it, and same with all of it.
Yep.
I started doing Tai Chi, and I thought that looked crazy. And then I was like, holy shit, I don't even need a cup of coffee. It's just all these little things that are free and we can give to our bodies, and they're so easy. You can do them anywhere,
Yeah.
We have to stop making it so damn hard.
I'm going to start recording when we're with our dad and we start talking about all this stuff. He's actually started doing some of it.
He's the one who started talking to me about Tai Chi.
Yeah.
But how good do they feel now? And to be 70 years old and he was just here on Monday running around keeping up with my 6-year-old, and just like a different.
Yeah, you would never know they're in their 70s. Yeah. Yeah. And we're lucky. I mean, we grew up in a house that there was a lot of fad diets all the time, like the grapefruit. Like I remember some of the, we were always trying to, I think our parents were always trying to, do the Atkins or do something. But we grew up in a house where, wellness really was talked about, I feel like, or just everybody did work out and everybody did go for walks. And, we also had the ho-hos in the above the stove, but I think that was also our generation.
But I also think something I've learned too is because I can go down this rabbit hole of this needs to be perfect. We need to do this. We need to do that. But if I'm stressed while I'm doing it, the way that your body is, it's not going to receive it the way it should. So even if you're shoving health food down your throat, and just different stuff like that. So you have to just let it be a little bit and still have the cake or still go have a margarita or go do something, but then get grounded again in what's important.
Yeah. And I would challenge anybody that's listening to this that, because I know we're talking about I had this crazy journey, you have had this crazy journey, kind of different. And Allie Payne, who's been on here, our hostess with me, she's had a journey, Heidi's had a journey. And I would encourage, and my hope with the Potential Within and some of this work that we're doing is that people can start to do some of this before there's a problem, right? My functional and kind of the holistic journey for me didn't even kick. I mean, I was a year and a half, had gone to Mayo, got the drugs, got the diagnosis, done all the things. And I finally was like, I can't live like this. I'm 36 and going through and I dug in with Allie. Allie kind of rode the whole journey with me and learned about epigenetics and all of how your environment impacts who you are and your body and how your body responds and the things going on. And so my hope and mission with the work that we're doing and talking about this, it's not for praise, it's not for sympathy. It's just start doing some of this now. You might think they're, in Allie's terms, we're wackadoodle, but I promise you it's to be able to wake up and feel, so much better days that I am having off days or some of the symptoms that I had during that time come back. I say to my husband, I can't believe I felt like this for so long. I can't believe I felt like how did I get out of bed every day feeling this pain and, just all of the things. So, that's my hope is as we can just bring a couple of people kind of along for, some of the science or some of the woo-woo-ness that goes on to heal themselves or, to start thinking about some of this differently.
Yeah.
So.
I love the community aspect. I'm excited for the next event so I can be a part of it and just really, like we talked about earlier, the importance of community and allowing people to just feel safe and seen and heard, and nobody is alone and nobody has that unique of a story that it's never been heard of. We've all gone through it. And I think, it's important to share it, or if you're not ready to share it, just try some of these and surround yourself with people.
And that's such a good point too. Cause I'm very open about, I pooped in a Starbucks. That's just kind of got to be my headline now or something. I need to put it on a shirt.
The shock factor, Nikki.
I know. I'll never forget when we were at Mayo and we were going through all these rooms and, you meet all these doctors and you're there for multiple days. And he politely excused himself from some of the conversations. But I remember him looking at me and saying, like, I just had no idea, like, to what extent you were going through all of this. And with the community specifically, like, I didn't share to the extent that a lot of it was happening because I was all of the things we've talked about, but I also didn't have anywhere to go. So like I went to TikTok and truly like I went to TikTok and I would Google like my symptoms. And I'm like, there has to be people in the world that are going through this stuff. And so alongside my mission to hope that we can, get some people on the bandwagon that, to take care of their bodies, like, it's okay to talk about it. And what you're going through is maybe a doctor at Mayo had told me like, it's not normal, but you're not like going to die, right? You're not rare. You're not. And I remember that was just such a relief to hear because it was like, yeah, like this isn't normal for a 36-year-old to be doing, having these symptoms, but like also let's go find a community. Let's go find people that I can talk about it with. So it was wild times.
Very much so.
Anyway, I know. So, well, if you had a couple of like takeaways, I know we've talked about a lot, but so obviously those 3 things, I love them. Journal, go outside, morning light, and breath work was your other one. Anything else that you would hope that people would take time to do or make time for?
Take time for yourself. I saw, so many women that were so busy. And again, it goes back to that piece of prioritizing. And when you find yourself saying, I am too busy for that, remind yourself what the cost or what might be the result of it, what cost that might come with. And so take 5 minutes and pour back into your own cup and just find people that you can connect with so you don't have to feel alone in this, and just always go back to yourself because at the end of the day, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I know. I know. And as you're saying some of that too, like I know you started this saying like I'm a recovering people pleaser, but like I do think that I think naturally a lot of women are, they'll do all the things before they take care of themselves. But that's been part of my journey this last year, even as we've kind of rolled out the Potential Within, and we're doing a lot of things that go along with kind of building this community. It's been a fun ride, but it's been a lot. Is saying no to the meetings or saying no to, like, it's okay to put boundaries around your time. I know on my Instagram, I'm a big boundaries person, but, and feel okay with that. But I think a lot of that, to be able to do some of that, you do have to come back to yourself and what you stand for and what are your non-negotiables. What are the things you're going to do to take care of yourself and who are you as a person, and then be okay with setting boundaries and, not feeling bad about saying no to all that networking stuff, or, maybe a meeting that you'd love to meet that person, but it just doesn't make sense right now in your life. And Allie Payne you've also been very good about this. Well, and Matt, that you have to be okay with, saying no and knowing that not everything makes sense in this season of life, as you put it well earlier. And just be okay with that.
Well, I'll share this super quick story, but it's just especially speaking to moms or anyone who feels like everything else and everyone else is so important. I was doing a business call, which turned into just finishing with like a breath work with one of my coaches, Elizabeth, and my son was supposed to be with the sitter that day and the sitter couldn't watch him. So he just woke up from a nap and was throwing a temper tantrum. So I'm sitting there trying to be zen and listen to this breath work. And all I wanted to do was go run and get him, and it was like, he was fine. He wasn't hurt. He was okay, but I had that instinct to just go to him, but I continued to do the breath work. And at the end of it, Elizabeth said, I know that was really hard for you, and I know it was very distracting, but in life, you're always going to have this. You're always going to have distraction. You're always going to have something that needs your attention more, but it's really important that you stay grounded in those moments and that you can always kind of find that, whatever it looks like, to bring you back to yourself and to be able to like calm yourself back down when life feels like everyone needs something for you or when stress is so high.
Right.
So.
And I think being okay saying that, like I've even, the girls, we have a little home gym in our office or in our home, and, they always have to be by me, always. I'm like, your dad's literally upstairs. Like, go
Sitting
talk
on the
to him.
couch
Like,
next
he
to
can
him, but they
wipe your
come
butt. Like,
downstairs to ask for a snack that was
God,
2 feet from him.
like, go talk to your dad. But like, I've just started, for a while, it hurt my heart a little bit because I was like, oh, like, but we built like a whole rock wall. That was my winter project. I still don't really know why I did it, but and so I was like, you know what, you guys can come down here and be in here, but like, I'm putting my headphones on. This is my half hour to listen to my show and walk. I was on the elliptical this last week, and it is crazy, especially the older they've gotten, that they really do listen to that. And Olivia will say, if Nora's trying to get my attention when I have my headphones on and I'm on the elliptical or walking, like, mommy's busy, like, how can I help you? And I'm like, man, like, sometimes you do just need to tell those people around you, like, this is what I need right now. I need 1/2 hour, or I need 1 20-minute session. You can be in here. Like, I'm cool with that. Please don't fall off the rock wall, but because that's probably going to stop me. But it's been cool to see, as I've gotten comfortable this past year, kind of setting those boundaries around what I need in my time, to watch them really support that. My husband right now, I'm like so tired every night, and it's like, I need to go to bed. Like, this is just like what I need right now. And, okay, that's fine. Like, how can we support that? And so I think just being okay with asking for what you need, or stating what you
also
need.
so important that your daughters are sitting there and watching you have a boundary, and to not only have a boundary, but also prioritize like you time and health and wellness.
Yes.
So I think it's now that hopefully they will grow up and have less issues than we have.
Yeah, I know. They did. We have like some 3-pound weights, and Nora's my youngest. She's 3.5 right now. She was like lifting alongside of me, and I was like, oh God,
like, don't drop the weight. Like,
say a prayer really quick. Like, just everybody get through this 20-minute session alive and without broken toes. And we did it. So, but yes, to your point, I love that and you do a good job with that, and your family as well. But if they see that, that's gonna be the norm, right?
Yeah.
So anyway.
I know. I'm like, I have to keep telling myself to stop sharing stories because I know we have to go.
No, it's good. Yeah. So as we've talked about a lot on this, Allie's going to be working alongside the Potential Within and the People Co., kind of with the online community that we've been building. I know we keep talking about this on the podcast. We're hoping in March to be able to announce more on that soon. We have our second event coming up in June. That's going to be amazing. The team's working really, really hard on that, and that's been fun to see that kind of start to come. We're getting our speaker lineup kind of figured out right now, and hoping to announce all that soon. But grateful to have you along the journey with us, and everything that you bring. Yeah. And I think I'm excited for you to talk more about trick. I mean, I just don't think people understand kind of what, or know a lot about. And I don't think about like the symptoms coming from the hair loss, or, patchy skin, or whatever. I feel like I've learned all the terms from you, but I just think there's education there as well, that people can continue to learn just what options are, and what's going on. And we don't always have all the answers, but we're hoping to continue to bring people in that we'll have a space where there is a lot of people to bounce up questions off of, or share stories with, and all kind of in it together.
Yep,
so
I love it.
Anyway. All right. Well, thanks so much. Yeah, we'll have Allie on. She'll be on more and more as we get closer to the Potential Within event we have in June, and we get the community going. You'll see more of her face as well. But thanks for joining us, and listeners, thanks for listening and joining our or following along, I guess, on our journey as we continue to grow and evolve. And we appreciate you all following along.